All right, let's
He's
do
like
this.
syphilis. Not syphilis.
He's like, you're like syphilis.
I'm everywhere.
It's manageable.
I can manage this relationship, but I'm never getting rid of you. And also, eventually, you'll drive me crazy.
And you lose your nose.
I thought you lost your vision.
That's what a weird.
You do.
Like, how
Too
is
bad.
that the only appendage you can lose? Welcome back to the Jack of the Shadows podcast, season 2, episode 6.
I would have loved if your voice
I did
cracked
not get that all out. I kind of died at 6. I got to 6 and I was like, sit.
As we get older, as we discussed, our lung capacity decreases.
My giant lungs are shrinking.
Oh, that's too
This
bad.
is Eric VC of the Giant Lungs, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite Dennis and Menace, Dave and Adam.
I want to be a menace.
Together, we're the VC boys. Say hello, Adam.
Oh, I guess I'm Dennis.
Tastes like paint.
Adam tastes like paint.
I don't know why we're Dennis and
Say
Menace.
hello, Dave.
I am the menace known as Dave. Yes, that is me.
For this episode, we read Lord of Chaos chapter 25 through 30. We'll start by reviewing the chapters we've read in View from Dragonmount, and then cover our favorite moments of these chapters and what shook your Willow.
Hey, can I ask a question that I meant to ask before?
Certainly.
Are we close to the end of this book?
No, we're halfway through.
I didn't think so.
Oh, we're halfway through. After our View from Dragonmount, we'll move on to our favorite moments and what shook your Willow. We'll discuss Rand's mental state in a Screw Lews, preceded by reintroducing our favorite peddler and one of our favorite segments, all in Fain. We'll then mull over Nynaeve's newfound skill and heel turn before moving on to our Coplin of the week and who leveled up. Let's scale to the top of our favorite mountain and take a look at the chapters that we read this week, beginning with chapter 25, Like Lightning and Rain.
How much of a trail do you think we've made by this point? Like, you know how there are deer trails at night in the grass? We're going up and down.
We've made a major track, a majorly identifiable track. The deer and mountain lions know to stay far away from this trail.
I took a Will Ferrell-esque elf photo of a Yeti.
What?
While on the trail. Apparently, Yeti do not stay away from the trail.
No, they don't. They are drawn by my magnanimous personality.
There is. The Yeti kind of sneak up to the trail and take a look around and wait for Dave to come by.
Who that guy not getting dates?
Yes,
Where'd you get your camera from?
Dave has planted a camera that is battery powered and
it's
sending
my
stuff
phone. My phone has a camera.
Oh, you're going, okay.
Satellite.
Yes, we are going up. Yeah, I get it.
Chapter 25 begins with Egwene waking, and she's brought to Amice's tent by Sorleia. Amice asks her to tell them about the Aes Sedai embassy recently arrived. Their embassy consists of 6 Aes Sedai, 2 of which are red, and the head is a gray.
It's not a good start.
There's also a brown, Nasuna Bahara, who asks for the location of the royal library.
She seems to have a photographic memory.
I think she
does have a photographic memory.
Okay, sorry. I will step back. She has a photographic memory.
Yes, you're right. The Aes Sedai have refused the Wise One's offer of lodging.
If it's you, it's bad, Adam. If
and
it's Eric, it's whatever.
Are instead with the Lady Arlen, a noble just above the middle nobility of the Kyrianan. Egwene suspects that Lady Quarren was a spy for the Greys. Egwene's conversation with the Wise One further reveals that the Aes Sedai have brought over 500 guards with them and have 100 staying on the lady's property.
Now, is that
somewhat frightening?
Right. Is that not only frightening, but a tad bit suspicious?
Well, I don't even think it's suspicious.
400 of them are a day's ride away. So
is not the town of Camelin
apparently they're relying on Rand not having any scouts around the area.
Yeah,
even though the Aes Sedai the Wise Ones clearly do and are aware of these 400 that are out a day's ride.
That seems like an act of war to me, but you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, except for the fact that
foreign soil by
an
entity.
Except it's Tar Valon. There's no way they're traveling around with contingencies this size. Yeah, it's...
How long would it take them to get there?
Probably a good amount of time. I mean...
Yeah, that's a long way to travel with that big of...
It's closer to Camelin than it is to Carian, so... I don't know.
No, it's closer to Kyrian than it is to Camelin.
Yeah, not by much, but yeah, it is.
It's still an amount of time to be traveling with that many troops.
Right.
That's
yeah. Well, not only that, it's not inauspicious. Like it's
this huge host is designed to guard Rand it's designed as an honor guard for Rand on his way back to Tarvalon.
I'm sure he feels very honored.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Egwene suggests that the wise ones who can channel shadow the Aes Sedai and make sure they don't weave any traps in the city for Rand. She recommends they ensure there are only 6 Aes Sedai in the group, because anything greater is going to be a challenge for Rand. After breakfast, the wise ones enter the city, and Egwene covertly wanders in a couple of minutes later, looking for directions to Lady Arlen's palace, where the Aes Sedai are staying. Upon arrival at the smaller noble's palace, Egwene realizes a large amount of the power is being used inside. She can't see the flows, so she assumes they're being sent south in the direction opposite her. Egwene sees a closed carriage depart the palace and then weaves an eavesdropping spell to listen to the goings-on in the palace.
And there were goings-on she almost got.
Yeah.
Well, she almost got caught.
Yeah, but she was.
But she learns
nothing. A
nothing.
Spicy nugget of information, and then all of a sudden.
Right, they walked away from the window. So she doesn't really learn anything, but Nasuna Bahara appears at the front doors looking for something. Egwene flees and runs into Gawain. Gawain informs Egwene that he is the head of the honor guard sent with the Aes Sedai.
Right.
Gawain takes
and
2.
She's none too pleased about it.
Can we also pause a moment that there is so much description of food in this first chapter?
There is, really.
I haven't had dinner,
so
it
much
especially
description
makes me
of food. Yeah.
Well, we know he likes describing clothes.
No, he loves describing food as well.
What foods? I don't remember any foods being described.
Oh my gosh, it's all the time. I'm sure there were pears.
I'm not.
No, there was a lot of mention
there were pears.
Yeah, I'm
what
sure
a random food to pick.
Okay, well, no one else noticed it, apparently.
So Gawain takes the 2 to the Long Man Inn, where Elaine tries to convince Gawain that Rand hasn't killed Morghese and assures him Rand has not killed Elaine either.
The Long Man.
She then proceeds to tell Gawain she loves him and wants him to become her warder. The 2 kiss and are caught up in their mutual romance.
That was so fast. That's like, it just like came upon us so fast.
Really?
Well,
I mean, we kind of suspected that by the fact that
what came upon us really fast was the dream. Her dream, and the fact that she identified in the dream that she was in love with Gawain. But at this point, we know that she is. So this is
I know, but I thought it was
fair
just
extension of that.
Yeah.
In the moments after the kiss, Gawain asks Egwene to return to the tower. Egwene asks Gawain to promise he will keep her presence in Cairhien to himself and not to raise a hand against Rand. Gawain agrees to both terms. Gawain agrees to both terms.
Do you know what we also found out? He has an estate with a vineyard.
Right. Yeah, he's got his little shack somewhere.
Somewhere north, right? Some secluded area north.
Did the sappiness of this section get to anybody else other than me? Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It came upon us hard.
Come on.
It was so sappy.
Smoochy smoo. Like, I was like...
It was a bunch of smoochies.
I didn't think this unusual at all for a...
Eric enjoyed it.
No, but it didn't seem like more. It didn't seem unusual
I'm making
for
popcorn.
Romance. Right? Yeah. Let me get my salt and butter.
It just seemed like, so I think maybe it's because it was he writes it from her viewpoint, which is probably what it is, because whatever the guy's viewpoint is never like this, never ever. But if that's the case, that's actually pretty cool that he's capturing, not to be sexist, because I'm sure not all women are like that, but he's kept, at least Egwene is most obviously like that, and so he's capturing the essence of her and how that would be viewed if it was from her vantage or viewpoint, or someone outside of her viewpoint viewing it through her lens, I suppose. So that makes sense that it would be all smoopy smooth then, and whatever. I was just kind of like, okay.
I don't know. I think it was just Jordan being like, I'm gonna crack my knuckles and write what I really want to right here.
Yeah, but he doesn't do that from a guy's vantage.
Well.
So these 2 exchange vulnerabilities, and Egwene tells Gawain when she'll be in the city and where. They depart each other's company, and Egwene returns to the spot that she had previously occupied, spying on the palace.
How do we think this is going to work now between the two of them? And we know we run into it a little bit later in one of the other chapters where she's like, I'm not sure what I can divulge, what I can't. Do we think this is going to be a conflict? Like her loyalty to Rand and now her loyalty to him? Do you think there's going to be...
The tack that she's taken on this is really good, where she decides that she is not going to ask him to divulge any information. If he does volunteer information to her, she'll accept it, but she's not going to ask him to uncover anything that might compromise him.
Do you think that'll
and she doubled down on it.
Something? Let's say Rand has a need, or she recognized that Rand's needs obviously needs to be greater than everything, but it's the need of the world. Do you think she would compromise that relationship with him for that bigger need?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean,
I think maybe she might.
It would depend. It would depend on how big. I mean, if it is a lot has to change with Gawain's relationship with Rand. Clearly,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
And once he's aware that once he gets past this whole thinking that Rand killed his mother, I think there'll be a lot of change. Which is infuriating as a reader
because we all know it's not the case. We're like, you blockhead.
Right.
It's great though. I bet that's dragged along for a while though.
Too many Aes Sedai are coming and going from the Palace of Erlen, so Egwene leaves, but not before she sees a dark-haired woman enter who we know to be Katarina Alruden. The scene then cuts to inside Lady Erlen's palace, where Katarina Alruden discusses the opportunities Lady Colvere will have once Rand has left Cairhien with the Aes Sedai. In another part of the palace, Nasuna makes similar promises to the High Lord Mylan. So...
Plots within plots.
Well,
they're just hedging their bets.
Whatever
happens to Rand, someone's going to fill up that power.
Well, and they're looking for help from these people too, so they're taking advantage of these people's ambitions.
Yeah,
I mean, clearly, also one of these two lords or ladies is also going to be severely disappointed, and perhaps killed.
Maybe both of them. Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah.
And yet another part of this quote-unquote small palace, Serena, Quaren, and...
I thought this was happening in the palace in Cairhien.
No, this is all happening in this supposedly tiny palace.
I mean, it's still a palace.
Right.
So in another part, Serena, Quaren, and Arian, three of the Aes Sedai embassy, discuss how to win over Barrelane and Arakome.
It is a lovely place, my house.
Part of this conversation is that Arian has been troubled by rumors that a Green Aes Sedai travels around with Rand.
Green Eyed Lady.
We know who that is.
This is crazy what they come up with, though.
Right. Well, they're concocted.
It gives me hope.
Galena Casbin then enters and is aware that someone was channeling at them earlier. She thinks this proof that Moiraine is still with Rand, disguised as this Green Aes Sedai.
Oh, Adam.
Yep. That's what I'm talking
this
about.
Conspiracy theory this conspiracy theory of hers is really, really interesting. She thinks that Moiraine has deliberately faked her death because of the warrant out for her arrest from the other Aes Sedai, and then she's reemerged as a Green. That's a terrible plot. I mean, anybody could see through a maneuver like
so
that.
So far-reaching.
It would be like right in front of everybody's faces, basically.
The problem is
I'm disappearing, and then but I'm here, kind of in the public eye.
And not only that, Moiraine and men, not so much to this point that I know of. So, Greens and their warriors and their men.
Oh.
Well, we know that. No one else knows that.
I mean, she'd be a fake Green to begin with. But it's a major taboo to change Aja, so that
apparently
that would be a huge.
We'll get
that
there.
would be a huge thing for her to get
later.
past.
Yeah.
As the group continues their conversation, we learn that there are two more Aes Sedai in Cairhien, though they seem to be incognito and not part of the embassy. So they're sneaking in other Aes Sedai here.
You think that's part of this embassy, and not just two others that are maybe we don't know who those two are?
No, they're bringing them in.
Okay, I thought.
And we do know who they are. They name them.
Oh, all right.
So they're.
Got that wrong.
We know that they're not just here to kindly escort Rand away. They're going to try to do that, And then if they can't do that, they've got another plan to try to capture him. We don't know what it is, but we know that there's another plan.
Maybe
we've overheard them discussing amongst themselves that they're going to get him out of there one way or the other. That's one of the reasons why there are so many guards there.
Sure seems like it.
Beldine has already arrived and staying near the river. That's one of the Aes Sedai that's arrived. And then Mayan is not due to arrive for 2 more days. So those are the names of the 2 Aes Sedai that are going to be arriving that are connected with these women and yet not connected with them. So that takes us to chapter 26, Connecting Lines. Rand watches a drill of 9,000 Saldaean cavalry dance around on their horses as they ride in and out amongst each other. Anybody else love reading this little section here?
I did.
Well,
that's got to be Camelin because the Saldaeans are there.
Right, the Saldaeans are stationed at Camelin.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wish I would have seen that. Can you imagine the stank of all that horse poop?
I'd rather not.
Why are you assuming all those horses are pooping at the same time?
Well, they're probably
not at the same time. You're assuming at the same time. I didn't say that.
How long do you think this drill is going on for?
Well,
I mean,
long enough for every horse there to poop?
Well, let's just say
I've seen horses and I see horses poop. I've seen horses just poop. So, and I haven't been around that many horses.
That's what actually has happened.
Quote unquote.
Whenever I go out in life, and whenever I see a man walking
a horse,
a dog,
it's pooping.
No, whenever I see a dog being walked, the dog 100%. Is pooping. So what actually
and it looks at you right in the eyes.
Right, and I'm somewhere in the crowd of these horses, and all these horses look over at me and go, "This is for you, Dave. It's Dookie time."
Okay.
Oh no, it happens with me as well. Always, every dog.
It is.
Yes.
Well, now the dogs don't look.
I don't know if anybody's told you this, but dogs are different than horses.
You know.
So Queen Dyra trots up to Rand and asks if Rand is amused, to which he responds he is pleased and leaves her because she is unpleasant.
Yeah. But there's a whole lot of thing with all the women there are like militant, and I mean militant in 2 ways. Like, they all seem like they're martial.
Oh, the Saldaean women?
Yeah, they're all like sword-bearing fanatics.
Yes. Many of the women on the borderlands are warlike. They have to be because
their husband goes down, they take up the sword and command the army.
That's the Saldaean women,
it's crazy.
It seems the Queen of Saldaea is not a big fan of the Dragon Reborn. She won't use his title, and she's constantly on edge around him. So Rand returns to Camelin, where he's caught in an assassination attempt. He kills one of the would-be assassins with a firebolt, and Desora takes a crossbow bolt in the rib for him,
so heroic,
preventing another attempt.
And then Rand goes off the deep end of emotions.
Well,
the Aiel have captured 4 plotters in total and reveal them to be White Cloaks.
It is interesting that they chose that vehicle. Like, why do you think that is? Why set up the White Cloaks? What's the?
Well, Podden Fain just had White Cloaks with him, and he can't use the Murdrol or the Trollocs. He's got to use human beings in the city, so that he uses what he has, and those are warriors, so they're going to be.
Well, they obviously, but one of the biggest giveaways, they did not act like White Cloaks when they were caught and confronted. I think.
Well, they've been with Podden Fain for a long time.
That was another suspicious point about that. When you're reading it, the first thing I thought is, why are these guys acting like this? They were acting really weird.
Bleeds over.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the White Cloaks is Demir Faral. Rand releases the man to ride and inform Pedron Niall that Rand will hang Niall for the attempted assassination. Unfortunately, it's misguided.
Well, that's the other interesting thing is if you pay attention to what they're saying there, and this was another weird thing for me when I was reading this, without the future knowledge that we have having read forward, but the guy says, "I'll come back to the light. I'll swear I'll be the light." A White Cloak would never say that. Like, a true White Cloak already thinks he's in the light.
Very, very good point. That struck me as odd as well.
Which is why I was so confused when I read this initially. I was like,
yeah, he says, "I swear I'll return to the light."
Yeah, you would think you'd be nothing but you are the light if you're a White Cloak.
Right. Yeah, it was really odd.
Well, we don't know all the White Cloaks.
Rand eventually leaves the ambush grounds and heads back to the palace, where he is greeted by Mistress Harfor. She tells him there's been a petition for audience from the Wave Mistress of Clan Catalar. The First Maid informs Rand
this is a big old deal. This Wave Mistress,
not to Rand, it's not.
No kidding.
Well, she's one of 2 wave mistresses that are trying to get his attention, so she's not unique.
I didn't see it in the prophecy, so therefore it can't be important.
That is true.
So stupid.
She is not unique.
The prophecy is apparently all that matters in Rand's life.
I don't get it. He's taking all these meetings with other people, though.
Right.
Taking these other meetings or having them forced upon him?
Up.
Right.
That's true.
He's
just
not
walking through the door.
Yeah, he's not really taking a lot of meetings, but his day is still very full.
They know how to take the reservation.
Right.
But they don't know how to hold it.
Oh, bingo, bango. Yeah, I understand that. His day is full.
The first mate also informs Rand, speaking of petitions, that there is another petition for his audience from Lady Elenya. Rand asks for Lady Elenya to be sent to his chambers where he will grant her an audience. He asks
you're right. He takes this one. I don't understand it.
Of course you need to understand it. It's to settle his conscience. That's the whole reason to take this.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Right.
He needs to know that the girl he's not in love with, he's not related to.
Right. Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
He asks the noblewoman to give him a history lesson of Andor's queens to do exactly what Dave just said. Upon hearing that he looks a little like Tigraine, he abruptly tells Elenya to leave and declares that Nandera and Kaldin declares to Nandera and Kaldin that he's off to Cairhien.
Goodbye.
Chapter 27, Gifts. So Egwene is returning to the Wise One's tents after a rendezvous with Gawain, where she has revealed the Aes Sedai are on the lookout for someone like her, the Green.
Green, yeah.
Egwene resolves to herself she will need to be much more careful when in the city. Saranda calls Egwene into a tent and informs her the Wise Ones are meeting and have given all of them the day off. When trying to figure out the reason for the holiday, Egwene learns that Rand has returned and will meet with the Aes Sedai in the afternoon. Egwene is suddenly fearful for Rand and decides to see him in the Sun Palace. So upon arriving at the door to Rand's chambers, Samara lets her in, and Egwene urges Rand to be careful with the Aes Sedai, and he informs her he has instructed them to send only 3.
Good choice.
She tries to use reverse psychology so Rand will be impertinent with the Aes Sedai, but instead Rand agrees to the deference she tells him to display. Samara enters and informs Rand the Aes Sedai have arrived, and Egwene asks Rand if there is another way out of the room or someplace she can hide. It appears that Lews Therin then suggests that Rand can cloak Egwene so the Aes Sedai can't see her. And in that brief conversation Rand has with Therin concerns Samara and Egwene. Rand places Egwene next to the small throne.
What was that face you just made?
I don't know what that sentence means. Do any of you? Did that make sense?
Can you read it again, please?
Trying to talk? Like, what was that? I don't understand what you're saying.
The brief conversation Rand has with Therin concerns Samara and Egwene.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not Lews Therin, with
Therin.
Not
Therin.
Lews Therin.
Yeah, Lews Therin. Rand places Egwene next to the small throne dais in the room and tells her not to move or she might be detected. Rand tells Samara to allow the Aes Sedai to enter. Upon entry, several servants bring in chests and Rand checks their faces for the Aes Sedai agelessness. He then tells the Aes Sedai that they're not to embrace Saidar while near him because he can sense that, even though they don't know how or why. Quaren has the servants reveal the contents of the chest they have brought as gifts from the Amerlin. I love that moment because the servants are like, what does she want? Why is she waving? Oh, she wants us to open the chest because originally Quaren had planned on flinging open the chest grandiously using the one power, and now they can't use it.
That's been sold down the river.
So her magnificent gesture can't happen.
Something that was so simple.
Yep. Rand accepts the gold the chest contain with near greediness that surprises Egwene as he continues to treat the Aes Sedai with comfortability verging on arrogance. Egwene realizes Rand never intended to be meek with these women in the first place like he had indicated to Egwene. Rand tells the Aes Sedai for their safety they're not to come within a mile of the palace. Before summarily dismissing the group, Rand asks after Alviar, to which Galena responds, "She's well. Thanks for asking."
She's great.
Egwene asks Rand,
"She's doing just fine."
After the Aes Sedai depart, Egwene asks Rand what his game is, and he responds he's sure that Galena Casbin is part of Alviarin's cadre. Egwene warns Rand she thinks Galena is a Red, and Rand says perhaps even the Reds may someday follow him. He then cites a prophecy that says the unstained tower breaks and bends the knee to the forgotten sign. The forgotten sign being the old sign of the Aes Sedai that Rand has.
I'm really becoming annoyed with Rand and his prophecies dictating his life. Like it's kind of like
he's reading too much.
Yeah, it's
you're getting too smart, kid.
I don't think he's getting too smart. I think he's smart overcoming his smart. See,
he's not getting street smart.
He's
getting his head stuck in that book.
There is a danger there. I mean, especially if Rand truly does think that Alviarin really wants to join him. I hope that's not what's going on there, because that's really dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned.
Rand then alludes that he was aware of Egwene's true intentions in coming to see him prior to the meeting with the Aes Sedai, that she was really trying to get him to act opposite of what she was actually encouraging him to do. Before leaving, Egwene asks Rand how he travels, and he shows her something similar to Einstein's theory of space-time. She asks him, how he travels from one place to the other, and he basically says, I fold time and space in half and then poke a hole through it. Unfortunately, she has not studied Einstein, and so she doesn't really understand this theory very well. Egwene was hoping it was similar to the method.
I thought she would have gotten it right away. Usually she does.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Too big for her britches.
Egwene was hoping that the method was similar to something that she had determined for entering the dream world in the flesh. So apparently Egwene has figured out a way to enter the dream world in the flesh. Egwene then leaves as she witnesses Rand trying to dig Lews Therin back out of his unconscious. The scene then shifts to the interior of Erlen's best coach carrying away the Aes Sedai. Quarren remarks on Galena's relationship with Alviarin, which Galena denies. Nasuna then asks if any of the other Aes Sedai were aware of the presence of another Aes Sedai in the room during the audience. Galena thinks it was Moiraine, while Quarren suggests it to be the rumored Green.
Moiraine again.
They're narrowing down.
Nobody knows where Moiraine is, and
the Shadow knows.
Nobody believes that without the body she's actually dead. This group all agrees to have Beldine find and capture the woman that was hiding in the room, whoever she is. They all agree they can wait in the manner that Rand has requested them to wait.
Do you think that's an overlook on Rand's part, that they would know that there's a woman in there, even though she's invisible?
You would think, yeah. It seems like he should know that, but...
Does it really matter that they knew that somebody was in the room if they don't know who?
Not necessarily.
I think that the biggest thing was that they not see it was her. Because,
definitely. I get that. I just think that it's...
But it's also possible that Rand doesn't understand that women can identify when a woman who can channel is near them. But I'm sure that 100%. They've informed Rand that they've learned this skill. I'm sure.
I would imagine.
If it is an oversight,
or someone came in to tell him it, and he was reading a book, and he was like, "I don't have time for this."
That's not in the prophecies.
That's not a prophecy.
I think it more than likely that it's immaterial, because they know that somebody was in the room, but they're still no closer to figuring out it was Egwene, and that's the big thing.
Well, yeah, but he still made a mistake, I think, or it was just a good chess move.
So that takes us to Chapter 28, Letters. Since the incident with Egwene and what I can only think was Lews Therin's suggestion that he hid Egwene behind an invisibility screen made of Sidin, Rand has been struggling with the presence of Lews Therin. While shaving, he determines he'll no longer be running from this situation or any others, including his romances. He heads for his traveling chamber, and before he departs for Cairhien, is given a letter from the Sea Folk by one of Berelain's personal servants.
I'm not afraid anymore.
I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid.
Rand arrives at his apartments in Caemlyn Royal Palace and immediately senses Alanna again. And guess what? She's been crying. But on sensing Rand's return, she composes herself. Aviendha enters the antechamber and tells Rand she has promised the Wise Ones she would stay with him, and his disappearances without her have created tow to her for Rand. She makes Rand, Jelani, and Nandera promise that Rand will not leave her without letting her know first from that point forward. Next to enter Rand's chamber is Mistress Harfor, who informs Rand that Lady Aemlyn, Lord Kulhan, Lady Arethel, Lord Burrell, Lord Masharon, Lady Sergeis, and Lady Nagara have all arrived in the city within the last day. Rand is glad of these arrivals because these were all opponents of Lord Gabriel's reign.
Yeah.
Mistress Harford goes on to inform Rand that the Sea Folk Wave Mistress was not happy he had missed their appointment the day previous.
Just gotta make these appointments.
At this point, Rand opens both of the Sea Folk letters he's received today and reads them. They're curt invitations to an audience. Then Sulin enters, and we have another strange episode of tow. Rand figures out that his command for Sulin to hurry while preparing to leave Caemlyn for Shadar Logoth led to her speaking to Guy Shine as far Dar Es Mai, which created tow for Sulin. Sulin was paying off her tow by working as a palace servant.
Did you say curt invitations to an audience?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, he did.
That's fantastic. Sorry. Keep going.
I'm glad you like my writing.
I really liked that.
It's funny.
Well held.
The letter Sulin has delivered has been sent by Alejandra Kigarin, Queen of Gildan, and pledges allegiance to Rand. While everyone is preparing to move on, Rand realizes a gray man has entered the room and traps him in air. An instant after Rand holds yet another would-be assassin trapped, Mazrim Taim burns a hole through the gray man's chest, killing him. Rand is infuriated with Taim's actions because it prevents him from questioning the creature.
Do you think you can question a gray man?
I bet Rand could.
I'm not thinking you can.
I don't.
I mean, he's dead.
Well.
No, he's
like,
dead
yes,
beforehand.
Dead men tell no
right,
tales.
and dead men tell no tales.
Mm-hmm.
Down in Davy Jones' locker. Mm-hmm. So, Rand is infuriated with Taim nonetheless because it prevents him from questioning the guy. Taim tells Rand he's arrived at at Rand's balcony because it was important that Rand heard that Jahar Narishma, a young man just past 20, had the spark, though it has not manifested itself yet. And I'm guessing this is the first guy at the farm to show the spark?
It seemed a big deal. I thought that they already experienced people that had the spark.
Did he farm Narishma? Meaning, did he go out and find Narishma?
He did, yes.
Whereas the other people just came and walked in. He went out and saw it. So I think it's the first one that he's found that he didn't have to test. Like, he just sensed it in him, if that makes sense. Like the other ones, they had to test and develop the spark.
I'm sure he tested him. He's been out
Wasn't
looking.
He out there for a while?
He's been out looking for these people for a while. Because Rand notes that he's been out trying to find people, and Narishma's name isn't from any area that Rand is familiar with. So he concludes that he's been going quite far to find these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the far, far, far away lands.
Luce Theron once again tries to kill Taim by wresting control of Saidin from Rand, but Rand just barely fights the ghost off. Rand and Taim discuss their suspicion that the Gray Man has been sent by Samael and how dangerous it might be to attack the Forsaken in Ilion. Taim returns to the farm, and Rand then handles the delicate matter of the embarrassment of Jelani and Nandera that they had not stopped the Gray Man. Rand also determines another way to take care of Sulin's toe. Rand's getting pretty good at this toe thing.
Right. He's finally figuring it out.
Which way is that, though? It just says he discovered
Which way is toe?
No. Which way is the one that...
leg.
It's south.
That was really, really bad.
It was quite impressive, Adam. You can say
As a man who makes
was it as good
terrible jokes.
Was it as good as curt invitations?
No. But at the same time, it was quite so much more.
No. I thought that the chapter ended with him being like, "Oh, I figured out a way that she's going to deal with this toe," but it wasn't actually described what it was.
No, we don't know what it is yet. We'll have to get there.
We don't know what it is yet. Yeah, I'm interested.
So am I.
He's gaming the system.
But I was more impressed with the way that he handled Jelani and Nandera. right? Because they're really embarrassed because on the one hand, they know they couldn't have seen the gray man. On the other hand, they're supposed to protect Rand and they didn't see the gray man. And he deftly suggests that we shouldn't let anybody else know about this in a manner that gets them off the hook. Aviendha keeps Rand in the room to remind him that he actually still has much to learn about Toh despite his victories of the day.
Aviendha is always good to make you feel
rain on his parade
than what you think you are.
We're then taken to Podden Fain, somewhere in Camelin, who is enraptured with the sight of the Shadar Logoth dagger. He takes possession
He loves it. He loves it so much.
Yeah, it's like literally part of him. He's taken possession of the Belmont abode for the time being, and as he plans his next move after his assassination test case using the White Cloaks, he also then proceeds to do something to the Belmont child, which terrifies the boy's mother.
It's nothing good.
He's so gross.
That takes us to chapter 29, Fire and Spirit. So the chapter begins with Nynaeve fuming over her treatment by the Aes Sedai since she and Elaine have decided to funnel all Moghedien's knowledge through the princess. It seems that since this change, the Aes Sedai are becoming increasingly interested with breaking Nynaeve's block. The Aes Sedai have met with the Wise Ones the night before. Nynaeve suspects that Egwene was with them, but given the Aes Sedai's current feelings towards Nynaeve, they're not in the mood to tell her about the meeting. While in thought, Tom and Julian come upon her, and Tom is accosted by Elaine. Tom informs them that Niall and Aelron seem to be drawing all their forces back to Amadicia, but from what Tom can tell, even though rumors of Saladar are now in the streets of Amadicia, Niall has no interest in the hideout. After some prodding from Elaine, Tom informs them he has heard a rumor that Morghese is in the Tower of Light in Amadicia and gathering an army of White Cloaks to take to Andor.
Love having Tom back.
I feel like they've been gone forever.
It does feel like they've been gone forever. They've been gone since the beginning of this book, and we're halfway through it.
They've been gone a week.
Right.
And in our lives,
I like having them back.
Years.
Yeah.
I feel like a book at least.
No, it's just been half a book. It's been this half of this book. Tom and Julian are summoned back to the Little Tower by Tobiah. Nynaeve and Elaine head off to visit Loghain.
Tom's been brought back by his leg.
While walking, Elaine explains to Nynaeve there's been a fight between Birgitte and Moghedien, so Elaine is not wearing the Adam. Nynaeve has not worn the bracelet often since she cowed in front of Moghedien, but she puts it on at this point. While walking, Nynaeve takes a new tact in handling a mistake. The night before, Theodrin had suggested using wine to help break Nynaeve's block. Nynaeve had consumed a whole pitcher, gotten quite drunk, and returned to Elaine. Elaine had to deal with the drunken woman and get her to bed.
It's very funny.
Yeah, it is.
Imagining her drunk is very funny.
Apparently, she was singing.
Yeah, it's great. Good for you, Nynaeve.
So Nynaeve actually apologizes for the event and enjoys the feeling of one of her few apologies to this point.
Yeah. She felt it.
Mm-hmm. She enjoyed the feeling of taking responsibility for her actions.
Yeah.
Nynaeve suggests with Tom and Julian in Saladar that the three head off to Ibu Dar to look for that bowl, but Elaine informs her that Birgitte has told Uno not to lend Nynaeve any horses.
Yeah.
So the two arrive at Loghain's cottage, and Nynaeve goes to work trying to heal him while thinking that if she can just talk to Egwene, the woman can convince Elaine that all three of them should be with Rand. While her mind wanders on how she might be able to make this happen, she heals Loghain.
Yeah, right.
I'm just gonna
I mean,
do
honestly, Eric's description there is perfect. That's kind of how it happens.
It is. That's how everything major happens in these books.
It's just kind of like I was walking down the
I was just like, what?
street,
What?
and then,
Go get Shiriam.
I
I've
found
healed.
$10,000 worth of gold bullion, and then I went to the bank and put it in the bank.
So she realizes what she's done and shields Loghain and then yells for Elaine to run and find Shiriam.
$10,000 of gold bullion, by the way, would be like a little nugget. Nothings.
Bullion is a coin, so it'd be several
It'd be
coins.
like a half of a coin.
It would be fairly heavy.
Yes, there is that too.
Chapter 30. To heal again. Elaine leaves to find Sheriam, and Nynaeve adds a bond of air to the shield she has applied to Logain. While Nynaeve and Logain face off, Logain relates a story of seeing the glow of a man while he was being paraded in his cage through Camelin.
Yeah, what book did that happen in?
That happened in, I think, the Great Hunt, the second book. Well, yeah, we remember it. That man he saw was Rand. And Rand is one of the two people he suggests maybe it could have been.
Oh, indeed.
Oh, indeed.
In bursts Sheriam with a host of Aes Sedai behind her. They all seem to doubt Nynaeve has healed Logain.
Also said that the Reds are finished.
He does. He does say that he thinks the Reds are finished because of the rumor that he and Swan are creating.
Yeah, he said that they wouldn't last a year, which is crazy.
And probably not true.
Yeah, I would imagine that would not be true.
In bursts Sheriam with a host of Aes Sedai behind her. They all seem to doubt Nynaeve has healed Logain, and Logain does his best to deceive them. Because he's not going to let them know what's going on.
Yeah, right
like,
away. He
nope.
understands the
Nope,
situation. He's like,
still can't sense Sidin. Nope, no Sidin here. Just a normal, really big guy with curly black hair.
I'm fine. I have no powers whatsoever. She didn't heal me at all.
Nynaeve does at least get these women to agree to shield him anyway. Sheriam and Mirel pull Nynaeve to her feet and out the door past a throng of more Aes Sedai and a grimacing Elaine. So these two women take her to a room in the little tower where they're joined by a group of Yellow Aja. After the group gathers and Sheriam asks Nynaeve to admit to her claim of healing Logain, Carlinia and Baonin bring in Swan and Lyanna. After a couple of tugs of her braid, Nynaeve takes Swan's face in her hands and heals the former Amerlin seat.
Jeez Louise, though.
Nynaeve goes on to heal Lyanna, and then the crowd falls to its own contemplation. Nynaeve asks Sheriam if this means she can now...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, why is that funny?
The crowd does fall to its own contemplation. It's great. I love it. I'm sorry.
And I'm amazed by the fact that I know how to summarize this stuff.
Well, no, they do. They're just, they're contemplating.
Well, what they're doing is they're suggesting ways that they can improve on what Nynaeve does.
They're like, we will do this so much better than you.
This, by the way, is the great frustration of any inventor, because it's very easy once somebody has figured out the way to do something. Figuring out how to improve an original idea is far easier than actually coming up with the original idea. This is the frustration of all creators. Nynaeve asks Sheriam if this means she can now stop scrubbing pots and pans, but she's rebuffed. Nassau states that they'll now have to re-gentle Logain, but Carlinia wisely points out that this could make them seem the same as the tower in Rand's eyes, and this is probably their opportunity to differentiate themselves from the tower. This thought leads the group of Aes Sedai to turn an aggravated eye to Nynaeve, whose exit is suggested by Sheriam, because she's created this whole new frustration of them having to deal with this man who can channel in their midst. Outside, she's joined by Elaine and suggests to the princess that they leave Saladar as soon as possible. Elaine explains that word of Nynaeve's success is already spreading town, and leaving will be almost impossible at this point.
She was heartbroken about it.
No sooner do the words escape Elaine's lips than Nynaeve is accosted by a herd of Yellows. We then join an exultant Swan who is receiving a hero's welcome from former friends. She sees Gareth Bryn heading up the stairs and confronts him on the second floor. Bryn won't relinquish her punishment any more than the Aes Sedai will relinquish Nynaeve's, and Swan has to leave off the argument as emotion threatens to overtake her.
Man, that was so strange.
She rounds the corner and weeps for the death of her warder, Ulrich.
Whoop.
She also tells herself she does not have time to fall in love with Gareth Bryn, which totally catches her off guard. Swan discovers that Lyanna...
I've never thought these thoughts before.
Yep. Swan discovers that Lyanna is there, and after discussing how to deal with a warder's death, moves on to a new plan for Swan to regain the Amerlin seat. Then we join Elaine, who's preparing for bed. She's joined by an exhausted Nynaeve and Swan and Lyanna. It turns out Lyanna and Swan have come to see if Nynaeve can restore them to their original strength. What Nynaeve has done for them is not enough. They need more.
Well,
They're
that's
very greedy.
They're currently far weaker in the power than
Right.
originally
Sure.
they were.
But they're like,
learned
hey,
there's a
no.
whole, and we've
Right.
known this for a while, but they really get more into depth in this chapter about how that really does affect everything in
Sure.
their lives.
Right. We
Which-
learn the informal
sure.
hierarchy of
Right.
the Aes Sedai that's all based on strength. Well, that's predominantly based on strength of the power and how quickly you learn while you're a novice and an accepted, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they basically walk in and they're like, friends? Friends?
Right.
Friends?
Friends?
We're
Food?
friends, right?
Food and
We're
friends.
Friends. Here, food and friends. Yeah. No. we're
Food,
good.
friends, and fix me.
Thanks.
We also learn the Aes
Thanks, but do
Sedai
it better.
are upholding the decision to depose Swan as the Armorland and forcing Lyanna and Swan to request reinstatement by their Ajas.
Yeah. Big old deal there.
Prior to offering to help them, Nynaeve demands Swan tell her what happened the night before during the meeting between the Aes Sedai and the Wise Ones. Swan tells them the Wise Ones informed the Aes Sedai of Rand's actions towards the embassy and that Egwene would join the Wise Ones upon the next meeting. Our little group of
Rich and compelling.
channelers agree to operate together with Swan as the leader. The two Aes Sedai leave and Nynaeve and Elaine fall asleep. In the morning, Nynaeve tries to further heal Swan and Lyanna, but it's unsuccessful. Finally, we're in Delana's room where she and Swan are discussing how to get Swan into the group of Aes Sedai meetings with the Wise Ones. Swan leaves and Lucilda brings Halima Saranov to Delana's door. The new woman
Swan leaves,
flashes
but
a hand
Delana
sign.
Delana also just like kind of waxes poetic about it. Like she's like, I would look out for that girl.
What girl?
Swan.
Well, yeah, they were good friends when they were
Yeah.
growing up in the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's a big-
Swan
I think
always
that's
looked out
I
for
think
her.
It's a really emotional scene right there because he
Until we learn
presents
she's
that-
until we learn she's of the
Dark
Black
Friday.
Aja.
Right.
I know that, but it's being presented like, hey,
Right,
actually,
if it was a
I really
feel-good
respect
moment.
that girl.
Mhm.
that immediately
Yeah.
got its legs chopped out from underneath.
Right.
Fantastic.
It
I
was
love
really
it.
disappointing, actually, for me. I was surprised that happened so quickly.
Yeah. That took me off guard.
Yeah, I was like, this is great.
Especially
and
the
this
way
is
this
not
whole
great.
thing is
I could literally
presented.
say that in the same breath because it happened that fast.
Yep.
It's kind of like Eric's healing moment.
Oh,
Eric
right,
was saying,
yes.
you know,
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
the healing.
It's kind of like any major moment that Robert Jordan writes of. Right.
He's good at pulling.
It comes
you know,
out of nowhere.
Pulling.
Eric's like,
whatever it is
yeah,
out
no,
from underneath
I
your
get it.
feet, whatever that
That's
phrase
what this
is.
is.
So Halima Saranov turns out to be Arengar, who Delana has been told of in a dream. Arengar tells Delana that she was with Cabrina Masendez before she died and knows about the tower's plans for Saladar and Rand. Arengar wants Delana to introduce her to the tower and take her in as a companion so that Arengar can guide Tower 2. And that wraps up our readings for the week.
Yay!
Yeah.
Adam, what shook your willow?
What shook mine is this whole bond that that Swan had with Ulrich and how
Oh,
it took her
okay.
over.
With Ulrich.
And-
Oh, her warder.
Yeah, her warder. It just hit her hard right from the get-go. Would that happen with Rand if Alana died?
Probably.
Well, no. It would happen for
It would
Alana
happen
if
for Alana,
Rand
It would
died.
happen for Alana?
But yeah. Yeah, that's
Well,
I
no,
mean, I'm
there
sure
was
the
mention
opposite-
of the
I'm
fact.
sh-
No, there's mention of the opposite happening within that.
I'm sure it would not be good.
Yeah, I just find it really interesting that we see that she gets this beautiful gift back, and then she goes through this absolute torture.
It does explain, though, what's
and then
been going on with
Lyanna-
Alana. Because Alana
She said
has
it took
recently
her,
lost her own warder. That's why
Yeah,
she's
it said
crying
it
all
took
the
her a
time.
year. Yeah,
Right.
it took
It's
her a
been
year.
less than a year for Alana.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge deal. I like that. I like that it was presented here in these chapters because it shows what a relationship that is.
Well, it's totally unexpected. It
Yeah.
completely catches her off guard.
right. Yeah.
Oh,
It comes out of
absolutely.
nowhere.
And it takes her a while to figure out what's going on, where all these emotions are coming from.
So that's obviously something that's necessary for the power then. because
it's part of it. It's a residual effect.
right.
Of
But
it.
when you would think she would have been dealing with that even when she didn't have the power, but she didn't. So
Yes,
I
it's
wonder
associated
if,
with it.
would that ever affected her if this healing hadn't happened? Probably not. Then,
Not to this degree.
Doesn't seem like it.
The magnification of the emotion is directly tied to the power.
Yeah.
She had been in mourning for it, and it had simply been suppressing it to this point. But once she got the power back, it overtook her.
It's the opening of the flower that they all learned.
That's the way that they control the power.
Yeah.
That's the way they channel, I should say. What shook my Willow was Egwene thinking she would have been perfectly happy hiding under the bed after being indignant at the suggestion Rand had made to her just moments before. They get the announcement that the Aes Sedai are to come in, and Egwene is sort of terrified and trying to figure out what to do. And Rand's trying to figure out what to do, and he jokingly suggests that she could hide underneath the bed. And she's like, I'm not going to hide underneath the bed like some child. And then Rand hears from Lews Therin that he can hide her behind this invisibility scrim instead. And then she's back there and moving around and terrified that her movements are going to give away her location. And she wishes for a moment that she were under the bed.
Right. Full circle.
Is that typical Egwene behavior?
That's typical anybody behavior, right? I mean, you're in one situation and you're worried that it's not quite working out, and suddenly the grass looks greener on the other side.
Yeah, and
that's very true.
It's also once again that dynamic that Jordan does with these girls and Rand. I think especially it's kind of just like this goofy thing and relationship they have between them, where it all has this weird kind of back and forth, and I don't really know what to make of it, but it's just kind of funny.
This is about dignity, and the solution that Rand comes up with is very dignified. She gets to stand there like a counselor, and nobody knows she's there, and she can witness everything that's going on and tell Rand what she sees, and she can witness it totally unobserved, which means that nobody's hiding any nonverbals from her. But she's so terrified, and she's sitting there sweating because it's so doggone hot, which we haven't talked about in a while. And she's worried that moving to wipe her face is making this thing shimmer or whatever. So
that's true. I didn't think about the heat. That is true.
So
it's unseasonably hot.
That was my Willow moment. What do you got, Dave?
My Willow moment is the fact that we now have a Forsaken in Saladar. This is crazy. Like, you've got Halima.
You're talking about Erengar, right?
A.k.a. Erengar. Now, just, hanging out. And remember that if you really delve into this, which I did for my Willow here, which I'm going to expand upon, none of these women are going to be able to detect that he's there.
No, because it's a man.
Because he's a man.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a Forsaken that can channel Sidene amongst all these women they would never know.
That's so crazy.
Right, and because
so dangerous.
Remember that Delana, at first, when the woman flashes the hand sign of the Black Aja, she senses for Saidar and can't sense it, which is why she lets the woman in the first place. And then she's indignant over the fact that she's using the Black Aja hand sign and yet clearly is not Black Aja because she can't channel Saidar.
Right.
So it's a major mask.
Yeah, this is
it's a great plan by the Dark One, and
problems all over it.
Yeah,
it's such confidence, and she just is like, this female has so much confidence, and yet I can't sense her.
The other thing is that Erengar is much more composed than we last saw her.
She's figured her crap out. She's obviously just accepted who she is, and she's going to put it to work.
Yeah, it's just funny, the contrast between where she was when we last saw her and where she is, how confident she is in her person now.
When we first saw her, she was just put into that body.
Sure, yeah, no, I,
So
Yeah,
I
she
get all the
first thought herself.
this?
I get all the reasons. It's
And
just
now
the
she's
contrast
like,
is comical.
Look at this.
Right, yeah. It's very funny.
Yeah. Though now she's amongst a bunch of women, unless she's. Well, that is also interesting, though. I think whatever her name is, the sister in Saladar,
Delana.
is she gay? There was some reference in there about I'm gonna be your. She says something.
No. At first she says she should be her secretary, and then she says confidant.
I think there's more to it than that.
Oh.
Oh, well, we'll see.
It's something specific in the wording to me read that it was more like that, and that I'm going to be your companion or whatever it is that she uses. Because once again, she's using her sexuality. So I don't know. That's what it felt like to me. I could be wrong.
What I
Not
saw
that it
was
really
the
matters, but it could
delineation.
matter.
The delineation between the two things was one would have put her as a servant to Delana. The other one puts her on equal footing with her, and she wanted.
Right. Well, if you're in a relationship, you're on equal footing.
Right, but you can also be on equal footing and not be in a romantic
Right.
relationship. And Erengar definitely is not interested in serving anybody.
No, for sure. But
Right.
if Erengar is Agenor,
Right.
who was
A lecher.
right,
Yeah.
then it would make sense.
Sure.
It's a beautiful entrance by this character.
Yeah.
What a turn of a character.
It's a sultry entrance.
From the ashes of a wretched male.
Right.
Yeah. Let's move on to a Screw Lews and talk about Rand and Lews Theron and everything that's going on with
fantastic, Eric.
the
That's
two
just
in this
wonderful.
chapter. Rand feels like in
Makes sense.
chapter 27 that for the first time, Lews Theron becomes a separate identity.
And that's what I was talking about last week on our last podcast. I felt like we were
Yep.
getting more and more, and now here's like more evidence of this.
And
It's
Rand,
no good.
Rand
No, I
also,
think it is good
why is it good?
because
Why
it
is
means
that
that Rand
good?
actually isn't crazy.
And that's the other thing is
Well-
now Rand is convinced that he hasn't witnessed any signs of madness in himself.
Right. So this really is something else.
It's something else for him,
think.
but also in these chapters, we also get a lot of people looking at Rand side-eyed.
Well, because Rand's having two conversations. I would be too. I'd be like, "What's wrong with it? Is
Right.
it a nutcase?"
Right.
I would be like,
And he's not a rock biter.
no.
So
exactly.
Are we sure that it is actually two separate identities?
I'm at like 95% right now.
All right.
Me personally,
There's still room.
There's still room for, error there, but I feel like we are getting, and Rand particularly also is getting more instances of some sense of lucidity and
Silent lucidity?
almost, but it's not quite because someone's
Oh
speaking.
no, it's not silent lucidity. It's very verbose lucidity.
And there are
Standing
instances where the
next to
conversation
Rand.
almost meets between the two.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion, but I feel like this is yet another instance of what that is.
But okay, so even if Rand is not going crazy, the fact that he is now struggling with wresting control of Saidin from this guy, he can't control him. If it's not madness, it's not a great type of sanity either.
No, it's almost the same result.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very
And
close.
but at least you can rest upon the fact that the end result may be the same, but at least it's not driven by the fact that you are mad. It may drive you mad, but it didn't start that way. There's a difference between, I think personally, there's a difference between being at war with what is wrong with me versus I'm fighting something that I can't control as opposed to something that's controlling me.
Yeah,
Which is
but I
kinda
mean,
what
he
insanity
thought
is.
it started off that way. He thought it started off with insanity.
But it isn't the case.
I know, but
He's
he's still
pretty
going
sure at
through
this
the
point.
thoughts that it was. I don't think that this is that much freedom.
No,
It's not that much freedom.
no, because you're not free from the other person. They're always there
No.
with you.
Yeah.
It does relinquish the fear of insanity.
Right.
So he's not worried about that.
Well, good for him.
But
I am.
But now he has to worry about every time he uses Saidin, is Theron going to crop up, and will he have to go through a struggle for control of Saidin in addition to just the general control that is trying to control Saidin in the first place.
Yeah.
So until these two can reach an agreement, it's a really bad spot. And it compromises Rand. Because he can't he can't be the Dragon Reborn if half of him is just fighting to control. And what I don't mean that literally, I mean that figuratively. He can't be all that the Dragon Reborn can be if he's the Dragon Reborn fighting the dragon.
Yeah.
This is just fantastic character development, I think.
Well, it's a great realization also of this world and how cyclical it is. And also we know that if you're a great enough hero, you go and do some holding pattern until you're spun out again by the wheel. Right?
Yeah.
A green room. Rand is getting more and more used to power. Like he's pushing people around now more often.
I was saying this last week also. I don't
Yes.
necessarily think it's a good thing.
Agreed.
You were saying it the episode before that. But now it's manifesting itself more frequently. Where he's tussling around Egwene, he's throwing people around, he's ordering people around.
I just don't think he wants to be around people.
Well, do you think that's a result of him constantly being at war within himself? So it's like the one thing outside of that he can control?
He just wants the sweet, sweet life of the sheep.
First of all, he's extremely busy, so he doesn't have a lot of time. He doesn't really have time to waste. So when he needs something done, he wants to get it done right away. And because of who he is, he has the privilege of people being willing to do it right away. And so he's getting more and more used to that. You know, this happens with celebrity. Once you become accustomed to it, then you just expect it all the time. You just expect people to hop at your command all the time. And you can justify
you think that's what's happening? Interesting.
And you can justify that by, well, I'm really busy. I have things to do. I don't have time to wait.
I'm a man of importance.
I'm a man of the people. Yeah. Except you're not. You're a man of the privileged.
Who used to be a man of the people?
During his discussion with Faral, Rand's grateful for his struggle with Saidin because it prevents him from recalling unpleasant moments. It seems like the void is becoming a little bit of a drug for him at this point. Like he can just slip into the void and just be, ugh. Because that's what he is when he's in it.
I think that's what it was presented with from the beginning, and now it's
becoming an addiction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like doing heroin almost, like where he can just like slip into that thing and just be totally out of it, and it prevents him from feeling. He doesn't have to worry about his emotions while he's in the void. I mean, that is what the void is it's devoid of emotion.
To me, it's problematic, but...
It is problematic if he's using it like a drug and a way to avoid his emotional necessities and entanglements. So he asks Selenia Sarand to give him this history lesson, and the whole reason he's asking for the history lesson is to get to the heart of what is the relationship between House Tricond and Tigraine. And whether or not there is a relationship there, because she tells him initially that all the houses are cousins. And Rand is like, well, like if they were all farmers, what type of cousins would they be? And she's totally put back by that.
Like,
farmers? And then she realizes he was a farmer. And she's like, farmers are great. We love farmers here.
They have the best insurance
kind
in
of
the
not.
world.
You know, inside she's like, no.
No, she clearly is disgusted by
Filthy
farmers.
They
But she
provide
says
all the food I eat.
But she eventually says, well, if they were farmers, you know, if they were common people, no, they're not really cousins because all of their relationships are very ancient. They go very far back. So they're.
And Rand's like, phew.
And Rand is right. It's funny because Rand has this whole conversation just to unearth his little
and then he's like, oh, wait.
love triangle.
How long has he been worried about this?
Clearly, he's been worried.
He's
been worried about it ever since he discovered he was Tigraine's child.
Right.
And it's funny because when we discussed that, Dave was the person who brought up he's related to Elaine, but he's not. He's not really related to Elaine.
Yeah, but you did bring that up.
Yes, he did.
Don't you forget about Dave. Don't you forget about Dave. Relationship with Tigran.
So chapter 27, Rand really kind of throws Egwene about the room. When Egwene puts her hands on Rand's forehead to check his temperature, we get an idea of how leery Rand is now of Aes Sedai laying hands on him ever since Olanna. Like, he's really paranoid of any Aes Sedai touching him.
He did not like it.
Right. He doesn't like it.
I feel like these two, one of them is going to turn on the other.
Yeah, it would be good storytelling if it does happen, because that would be a major about face. We were talking about Rand's temper and Rand's treatment of people. He yells at Idrian for the missing Herod Fell. So it's another person that he yells at.
He doesn't like people. This is just what it's coming down to. He don't like being around people.
Yeah.
But he does detect that gray man.
Good. Yeah, he did.
Let's rope in Mazarim Taim here, since we're talking about the gray man. Did anybody else think it very convenient that Taim kills the gray man? Did everybody buy his story that, oh, I saw he was attacking you and I threw this flame ball at him, but it was too late. You'd frozen him, but I threw it just too late to be able to recall.
Yeah, that seemed a little convenient.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's been set up not to be trusted.
I feel it's more like I saw that you had trapped him, and so I decided to kill him.
I guess if he kills Rand, then he's one of the more powerful people in the world. That makes sense.
Here's my suspicion. Remember that the other Forsaken are using Samael as part of their agreed upon plan as a lightning rod to draw Rand's attention. And to this point, they've been waiting for Rand to attack Samael, and he hasn't done it yet. I suspect that this is another plot by the Forsaken to lure Rand to Samael, and I think that Taim is part of that group in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
So he sees that Rand has trapped this guy, and he needs to kill him. Not that I think there's any, like we said, the guy's not going to say anything. What is he going to say? He's dead. He's a dead man.
But why?
He's a dead gray. He's a gray man.
Right,
He's not living. There's nothing. There's not a conversation that's going to be had with that dude.
I don't know how this world works. I feel like there are new representations of how the world works.
Maybe the world works.
Maybe in the future a gray man will be taken to the side and he will have an interview.
Maybe they do talk, and then that maybe Taim is aware of this, and this is the reason why he kills the gray man.
But that being said, no, that guy is not trustworthy.
Speaking of creatures of the dark, let's move on to All in Fain.
Okay.
Yeah.
We finally get a return of our favorite peddler, who seems to still have the group of white cloaks and Trollocs and the captured Murdrol with him.
Yeah.
And he's in Camelin.
Yeah.
What was he doing right before this?
The last we saw him, I think we saw him with Elida, which would make sense of why he's in Camelin, because the White Tower is relatively close, and in fact they allude here that that's where he's come from, is the White Tower. And he does mention that he's poisoned at this point with the poison of the dagger, both Elida and Pedron Niall.
Oof.
Not by
power move.
Not by actually stabbing them with the dagger, but he says he brushed them with the poison of the dagger, which means
I feel like that would just be like being around him for too long.
That would be one of the dangers of Mordeth, but
that whole conversation.
How they're poisoned, I don't think is as important as the fact that they're poisoned, which means that they are incredibly untrusting of anybody.
Yeah. There's just so much there. It's just like What does he have to do with it? What doesn't he have to do with it? Who like all these people are. It's this weave of and the evil, just the multiple evils of evil with this guy. How does he get around so fast? Like he seems to be everywhere and nowhere.
I think because he has a different sort of evil than the rest of them. He seems to be presented in a different way, that he's beyond just following the Dark One.
Well, he knows where he's going, and he's targeted the three most important people in this world. These are individuals that aren't heads of nations. They're political entities, they're heads of societies, but they're not heads of nations, which actually makes them even more important because the organizations that they are part of are in control of the whole world, not just a specific geopolitical area. So
yeah, that's true.
He's targeting the most important people on the continent. And now he's poisoned those individuals. And remember, he's an agent of chaos.
Right.
So all he's looking to
He
do
is
is cause problems. He's not looking to create any specific end other than the death of Randall Thor.
Yeah, he hates him so much.
And not only that, but like he in this chapter, like he's talking about how he's crazy, and he admits that he's crazy. Like he's like he knows he's crazy and he doesn't care. Like that's the worst type of crazy. You got a self-awareness of the fact
Right.
that you are nuts, and you love it. There's nothing to do with it.
I still don't understand what his relationship is with the Dark One.
He doesn't have a relationship with it. He's like.
Well, he
he's
does.
Like, he's the.
He has
Or he
to.
did.
He's like.
He was
he's-
called
he's
to Thakandar.
But he's another Dark One now. He is like his own Dark One. There's like two now.
I would argue that he
seems
is a
more
step
powerful
below that.
Right. He's not as powerful.
Right.
But he's like.
But he doesn't
a
hold
separate type of evil.
Well, he has another personality that does not have allegiance to the Dark One.
Yeah.
Though the funny thing
But-
is that the evil.
But he's in the physical world.
Right. That
So-
makes him, to me, that makes him the greater of the evils because he can.
For now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
For now.
absolutely. It felt like we had more moments with him and Pedro and Niall. We only had the one scene with he and Elida, but he's been to both places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a very good planner.
He's also frustrated by the fact that he has attacked Rand's homeland and it hasn't seemed to have borne the
His
fruit that he
plans
was
aren't
hoping
going
for.
according to plan.
Yeah.
Well, that's
true.
only because Rand is one step ahead of him when it comes to smarts. This is the reason why Rand won't go and visit his home,
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
because he's not going to give his enemies.
Well, Rand doesn't
a
want to
chink
go to
in the
visit his
armor.
home to endanger the people. It's not about Rand not going there to not make himself exposed to get caught.
Well, remember when Rand talks to Perrin about heading back to his home, and Perrin says, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" Part of what Rand says is, "I can't let people know that this is an area of weakness for me."
Right. Which is slightly different than I can't go there because they might catch me. It's
No, I'm not suggesting because they would catch him there because
Oh.
they know that he hangs out
Okay.
there. I'm saying that he can't let people know that if they attack those individuals that it'll hurt him, because then that'll encourage people to attack those individuals.
Yeah. Okay.
He's just distancing himself.
Right, and Fain is frustrated by this. It's one less arrow that he has in his script. He's frustrated, but I think he feels like now that he's in Camelin that he's close to achieving what he wants to. Like the whole attack by the White Cloaks was just a test. It wasn't supposed to be successful necessarily. He must have learned something from it, and now he's on to his next plan, and we simply don't know what that is, and I don't know if he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a strategy there.
So that's Pod and Fain.
It's disarming and alarming.
I don't like him.
Let's
No,
move
I don't
on
like him.
to Nynaeve with heel turn. Jordan's making a point here. Like, we're frustrated by the fact that these major moments just sort of pop out of nowhere, but that's sort of Jordan's point. And that's one of the points of these books is the idea that heroes aren't heroic. Heroic moments don't get fanfare before they happen.
They just happen.
There's no build-up. They just happen.
Right.
And one of the reasons that Nynaeve is successful is because she's distracted. Like, I can remember when I was younger and learning, different musical instruments. The crazy thing for me was I would work and I would work and I would work on something, and I would hit a certain plateau, and I would walk away and I'd give it a little bit of time away, and I would come back, and all of a sudden I would have made a leap in my ability.
It's very strange.
Nynaeve has been working.
I'm playing Vivaldi now,
and
baby.
working on this. She stops thinking about it, and she's fumbling around, and because she's not totally focused on it and allows her intuition to take over, she's successful. Now, fortunately for her, when she's asked to duplicate the process, she can. She's aware enough to understand what she does, but not aware enough to create pressure on herself to repeat past mistakes.
Were either of you expecting that to happen? Because I was not.
No.
When that happened, I was not expecting that to happen. It was amazing.
Neither was Nynaeve.
Not only that, Adam,
Yeah.
this is like, this is, up to this point in the books that we've read, one of the most important things ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the interesting thing is, so what we've done is we've discovered that she can heal people who are stilled. There's not going to be many of those. I mean, how many are there?
They mentioned that specifically as after the two were healed that were there.
Yeah, but...
Well, three.
There's a bit to unpack here. So now she's, okay, maybe now she's back in you would have hoped she was back in their better graces because she's discovered something on her own, not through Margedian. They, of course, don't know that. But that she is, quote-unquote, useful again with her discoveries.
I don't think that matters.
It should have. They should have been like, okay,
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters in the big tower.
Well, in the little tower it doesn't seem to matter either. They're kind of like, okay, what's next?
No, because what we discovered is that the little tower is now acting like the big tower.
Yeah, well, they're eyes to eye. They're going to do that by rote.
Yeah, it was going to happen.
So now we've got these two back who can channel. You got Logain back who can channel, who was a challenger to Rand to begin with.
That's crazy, though. Now they have all those man hours or person hours with those ladies that have to be back there.
To watch, yeah, they're kind of grumpy about that.
6 at a time?
Yeah, to keep the shield on him, on Logain.
That's crazy.
This is huge. And it's, yeah, it's just cool stuff.
It is huge because she's been talking about it for a long time.
Talking about what?
Well, she's been talking about that she can heal people better.
Oh,
in
right.
general.
Well, that's also Nynaeve in general, and Nynaeve thinks she's, better at XYZ than anybody. Whatever XYZ may
do you feel? I feel like Elaine would be really good at this as well.
Elaine's not strong in healing.
Well, I feel like she could figure it out. She figured out that bracelet situation.
Right, but that's...
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, it's just different.
What we discover is that Nynaeve is using every one of the elements.
Right, yeah, in ways that the other ones didn't, and I love it, because all the rest are like, why on earth did you use this? And Nynaeve's like, I don't know, it just seemed to make sense.
This is another one of Jordan's points, which is that as certain groups get more and more specialized, they lose some of the knowledge that a more heterogeneous approach can create.
And it's great because it's also humbling. Just when but they don't get humbled by it, but it should be. It's like just when you think you know everything because they think they know everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, nope, you don't.
Yep.
And
she's
like, we don't care. We're going to take it.
She's more like a witch doctor, where they are more like modern medicine. She's more holistic. They're more
She's got the juju.
What we would think of as conventional medicine.
Juju.
This has been the thing that she's been obsessing with. So the question is, where does she go from here? Because the only other thing that she can sort of fixate on at this point is breaking her block, which she's worried everybody else is going to fixate on as well. Now that
and they are.
Now that she can't focus on.
Well, yeah, it's already happening.
Just focus on trying to figure out how to heal Stilling. Was this something that the Forsaken ever mentioned? I seem to feel like she's the very first person to ever do this.
They all
in the
thought it
history of
couldn't be done.
time.
Or they didn't have an interest in doing it. The Forsaken probably didn't have an interest in doing it because I don't know that any of them were ever stilled. So they wouldn't care. And if they're cutting somebody off from the source, it's definite, permanent, and done.
Well, I think it makes sense in terms of everyone was saying that she was going to be the most powerful Aes Sedai of all time.
That she would be able to
heal.
Adam's saying
but this has nothing to do with power. This has to do with knowledge.
Right. I wonder if it does take we have no idea. Maybe it does take a fair amount of power. Like I wonder if Swan and Lyanna would be able to pull that off with their lesser strength. I have no idea.
Eric, you think that has to do with knowledge? I feel like she
skill.
I think it has to do
I think
in her
what
case,
she
intuition.
used was like knowledge of planting things in the two rivers.
She used her intuition wherever
She's good at planting
wherever
attitude.
that came from, but this is skill. This is not power.
Yeah, it's skill.
I mean, it's her knowledge of healing that is feeding the skill.
Oh, sure. Her knowledge of growing herbs.
The major difference is between skill and power, not knowledge and skill.
Do you feel like she's got a large knowledge in healing? I don't.
Oh, I do.
I feel like it's based around a lot of herbs and crap like that. I don't think it's based on the power as much. I think she's learning about that.
I think having a large knowledge of healing can exist outside of the power.
Yeah.
Right, but this is all power.
Yeah, but her knowledge of healing informs this.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's the reason why she's so good. The reason why she's such a great healer is because she was a really good healer before she started doing this, and so she's bringing all that knowledge.
But that's not true, because when she was healing, she was using the power, and she didn't know she was using the power.
Partially, yes, but not in totality. That was not the only thing that was going on. That was the thing that took her over the top. Yes. That was not the only thing that was going on.
No, it
she
wasn't.
she was a very good healer. She did a couple of miraculous things because of the power, but she was a very good healer and has a very good understanding of
I think
herbs.
She was a very good healer because she was injecting the power into it all along and she didn't know. I think if she didn't have the power, she probably would have been a normal healer. I think it adds to it. I just don't know how much it adds to it. I don't know what her knowledge outside the power would bring into this. I don't know if it's intuition. I don't know if it's what you're saying. I think that it's probably a combination of everything.
There's a reason why she's different, and what we don't see is her overpowering anything here. I think it's important that she's distracted when she's successful because it means that she is doing something intuitively. And that intuition is a product of her upbringing.
Is she going to have to be that way for everything else going forward?
No, and that's the reason why where she comes from is important. Adam, who is your Coplin of the week?
Oh, my Coplin of the week? Coplin Fain.
What would Adam's Coplin of the week be without being preceded by, oh, my Coplin of the week?
Every week.
No, I'm actually, this week I want you to tell me what David's Coplin of the week was.
Coplin Fain.
Podden Fain was your Coplin of... Are you just going to use him as your Coplin of the week every time he shows up?
Well, he sucks.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair
He's the
enough.
ultimate... I think he is actually the ultimate evil in this world.
Yeah.
I think there's a solid argument for that.
In this world, he is the Dark One, but worse, because he can touch the earth.
Yeah, because he's there.
Yeah.
He's absolutely horrible. It was really well done how... you can show how absolutely horrible he is in just these moments. And then he just takes this woman away to do even more horrible things.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's taken her to the back room.
Yeah,
that we're not even hearing about.
Right.
Even though he just tortured her son right in front of her eyes. It
sickens me.
He's a complete narcissist and
loopy to boot.
Mm-hmm.
And also obviously psychopathic.
Loopy to boot. I love that.
He's
loopy to boot.
He's a monomaniac. Yeah,
it's amazing though. He appeared in such a short amount of time in these chapters,
right?
And yet it was
like you probably count the number of paragraphs on one hand.
Was so strong.
He does a really good job with this character, just portraying what
he just makes you so
seediness he is.
My Coplin of the week was Delana.
Interesting.
That's understandable.
Interesting.
We've had references in the books leading up to this that Swan had this other really close friend that she used to pull a ton of pranks with. It turns out it's Delana. Delana still wants to have a great relationship with Swan, who is clearly not going to be the Amerlin.
They already pointed that out.
Failed.
That's not gonna happen.
That attempt failed. She doesn't want to be good friends with her because of any political reasons. It's simply for the reasons of nostalgia and friendship. And here this woman is the conduit for a tremendous evil being entered into this very small society, which means that she's going to have all that much more power. It's really frustrating that this is what's going to happen.
Excited, like you were hoping it was going to happen, and then you were like, "Well,
yeah,
what the crap?"
She brought me up so high and then dropped me that much farther to the ground.
Okay.
And so for that,
that's what happened to you.
I name her Coplin of the Week.
All right.
Yeah, that happened in a very short amount of time.
As things do in this world.
Oddly enough, I did not go with Pod and Fain.
I love it, Dave.
You're out of the Adam clan.
Well,
the Cladam.
It was a very tough call, but I went with the Yellow Aja as a whole.
The Yellow Aja? Okay. Yes. As they gathered around Nynaeve.
Explain.
Right, because it was just kind of like she did this amazing thing, and they're all like, well, maybe if you hadn't been so ham-handed with it, you could have done it better.
They're just acting as they do, though.
Right. Well, it doesn't mean they can't annoy me, and they do. And because of that, it was just super frustrating. Like Eric was frustrated with her. It was kind of like she had this amazing moment, and they're all like, well, let's just see how much better we can do it than you can, because you're just a wilder. Like, it's just this ridiculous... And there may be actually truth to that. Like, they may actually be able to do it slightly better.
I'm sure they will figure out ways to make it more elegant.
But that doesn't mean that didn't annoy the crap out of me, because it certainly did.
And then they're grabbing her and they're like, we have plans to grab you one.
So first of all, Sheriam tells Nynaeve, look, they're like this right now. In a couple of weeks, you'll be getting your accolades.
We'll see.
Right, that has yet to be determined.
When have we seen that with
we
Aes
haven't
Sedai
that I know of.
I don't think we have.
When have we seen and accepted discover a historic ability, talent?
It's called Elaine creating Terangrial.
Oh, that is true.
And look at all the praise that was heaped on those two.
But in the beginning, there was never they didn't that we know of that they weren't like, oh, we could do this better. No, I haven't heard Hyde nor Hera.
No.
It's just Nynaeve.
No, nobody knew how to do it.
I think everyone messes with Nynaeve because they think it's funny that she can't do
remember with the other instances, no one witnessed her doing it. We have no instances of anybody witnessing Elaine actually creating any of those Angreal.
Have now.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah, we don't know
that. It's a safe assumption. But in this case, they witnessed it.
They were all there.
They were all there.
That would be interesting.
The Yellow Aja does nothing but heal. This is their thing. So they're all going to have an opinion on it.
It's still annoying to me.
And by the way, it's a great statement of exactly how these things happen. And also,
it's a great statement of the big tower.
The big tower.
The big tower. Yes.
Which is the little tower is now the big tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a salad, but big.
Who leveled up? Dave.
Well, it's Nynaeve. I mean, I don't really think there's any two ways to go about it. I mean, Shazam. She did the unthinkable.
I agree. That's who leveled up for me. It was Nynaeve.
Yeah.
I mean,
It should be a clean sweep.
This is historic. You just mentioned the fact that Elaine can create Angreal, but that's been done in the past. Angreal were created during the Age of Legends.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure
We've
that
never heard about this.
There is no instance, and in fact, I'm pretty sure that Moghedien even told them that you could not heal Stilling. This is groundbreaking. Like, this has never been done.
Yeah.
So if Adam has somebody else, he's wrong.
I do have somebody else.
You're wrong.
But I have a question.
You're wrong. You're wrong, and your question is nullified.
Why is it that they got healed and they didn't get back to the level that they were originally,
and I don't,
other than just to present a storyline of saying this is what?
Well, I think it goes to
the
what she
actual
was talking
hierarchy
about
is.
with the difference between men and women and just the way that the powers differentiate. Maybe the way she combined, and this is pure speculation on my part, maybe the way she combined the certain elements of power works better for a man than it does for a woman. This is the only thing I can hypothesize. Maybe if she'd used more of one, more of Earth, for example, because that's more a man thing, then it would have worked better. I don't know.
Do you think that she could actually heal Swan again to get to the point that she is back to her powers?
She tried.
I think either she doesn't have the knowledge, or once it's done, type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean the bridge is mended. You can't.
I don't think you can re-mend.
I mean, maybe you could break it again, but
still her again, and then
I also kind of feel like it's not that big of a deal because Swan is just a fast.
Oh, it's a big deal. No, it's a big deal.
I think they'll find a way to work through it. I also would like to.
It's a big deal for. It's a big enough deal for Swan that she humbled herself in front of Nynaeve and asked.
Well, she also couldn't handle her emotions because she was experiencing the loss of her.
That's not what was going on there.
Initially, I think it was.
I think it is going on there. I think it was that, and also humbling herself.
One.
Yes.
So that wraps up episode 6. Join us for episode 7 when we cover chapters 31 through 36. Until then, may you rest in the Creator's hand.
May you know good hunting, young bull, and she's to give you many cubs.
Tovia and to say Tovius again.